Om Asmadgurubhyo Namaha. Om Namah Paramarishibhyo Namah Paramarishibhyah. Om Namah Paramarishibhyo Namah Paramarishibhyah. नीलातुङ्गस्तनगिरितटे सुप्तमुद्बोध्य कृष्णं पारार्थ्यं स्वं श्रुतिशतशिरसिद्धमध्यापयन्ती स्वोच्छिष्ठायां स्रजनिगलितं यावलात्कृत्य भुङ्क्ते गोदा तस्यै नम इदमिदं भूय एवास्तु भूयः कास्यपान्वयसञ्जातं नारायणपदाश्रितं श्रीमन्नारायणं वन्दे यतीश्वरश्रियाजुषम्. So we will do the 23rd Pasuram today. Mari malai muzhangil, mannikidandurangum, Siriasingam, Arivattu, Thீவிடுத்து, வேர் மயிர் பொங்க எப்பாடும் பேருந்துதறி மூரி நிமிர்ந்து முழங்கி புறப்பட்டு போதருமா போலே நீ பூவை பூவண்ணா உன் கோயில் நின்னகனே போந்தருளி கோப்புடைய சீரிய சிங்காசனத்திலிருந்து யாமந்த காரியம் ஆராய்ந்தருளேலோ ரெம்பாவாய். அடியன் டிஸ்கோ.
Hariyan Swami. Yeah. Harini.
கேக்குறதா கேக்குறதா
கேக்குறதுமா. போட்டுங்க ஹரிணி.
நான் மியூட் போட்டுருவா?
இல்ல இது உங்க லேப்டாப்ல ஸ்ருதி போடுங்க.
போட்டாச்சு. கேக்குறதா? போட்டிருக்கேன் நானு.
நீங்க பேசும்போது கேட்கல அது.
எடுத்து கொடுக்கவா?
மாரி மலை முழஞ்சில் மண்ணி கிடந்துறங்கும் சீரிய சிங்கம் அறிவுற்று தீ விழித்து வேரி மயிர் பூங்க எப்பாடும் பேந்துதறி மூறி நிமிர்ந்து முழங்கி புறப்பட்டு
போதருமா போலே நீ பூவை பூவண்ணா கோயில் நின்றிங்கனே போந்தருளி கோப்புடைய சீரிய சிங்காசனத்திருந்து யாம் வந்த காரியமாராய்ந்து அருளேலோரெம்பாவாய். சீரிய சிங்காசனத்திலிருந்து யாம் வந்த காரியமாராய்ந்து அருளேலோரெம்பாவாய். ஆண்டாள் திருவடிகளே சரணம்.
ஆண்டாள் திருவடிகளே சரணம். Thank you so much. So, 23rd Pasuram, Mari malai muzhangil. So, in this particular Pasuram, we are being described how, so there is a discussion that apparently happens, right, between Krishna and the Gopikas here. So, Krishna finally responds because he felt bad that they had taken so much effort to almost skip their night's sleep or even wake up pretty early in the morning, walk from there all the way from their home, because there are so many homes in Ayurpadi, right? So they walked from their home all the way to Krishna's home. They didn't take any vehicle or anything because they were literally stopping at every home and they were collecting and gathering people. So went through walk, waking up so many Gopikas. Finally, they took the effort of waking up Nandagopa, Yashoda, Balarama, Nappinai Pirati, and they are waiting outside in that cold, right? And he's still not responding. So he actually felt quite bad as he felt when, even in fact more bad than how much he felt when the sages in the forest, they have approached Ramachandra, right? At that point, he felt very bad that, as the protector of that particular, kingdom, it was his duty for him to take care of everything even before someone would come and petition to him. But he did not even know about how much the sages were suffering in the forest with all these Rakshasas trying to destroy their yajnas, and they were even causing all kinds of damage to their sacrifices, and so they were even consuming some of them, right? So Ramachandra felt very bad. Now here, that is the case of, men approaching. Here, women have also approached him and he was still not responding. So he felt even more bad. And finally, he responded to them saying, I'm going to come, you ask what you want. And then he wanted to listen. So apparently this sort of discussion happened. And this thought process of Krishna is something that we are being told here, right? And then they are asking him, saying that, if you just go and sit somewhere inside or sleep on the bed and say something, that is not authoritative for us. What is authoritative for us is if you come out and sit on the throne, and then when we express our desire, then if it is something that is done in a private setting, one may decline and say, I never said that, right? But if it is done in the presence of everybody on a throne, out of respect for the throne, out of respect for the position on which one is in, one may not decline the statements that one makes while sitting on a throne. So they invited Krishna to come out of that home and, sit on a throne, and then from there they wanted Krishna to fulfill their desire when they would actually express their desire. And in the process, they wanted to experience the beauty that the Lord displays while coming all the way from his sleep somewhere inside the house, you know, to the throne, right? From the position of that sleep to the position of walking and all the way to the throne and finally sitting on the throne. So, in this way, if we look at Divya Desams too, there are all kinds of Divya Desams where Perumal, in certain Divya Desams like Sri Rangam, Perumal is in a sleeping position. In certain other Divya Desams like Tirumala and so on, Perumal is in a standing position, right? In certain other places like Vaikunthanath Perumal Koil and all that, Perumal is in a sitting position, right? In this way, Perumal appears in multiple positions in each of these coils, right? So they want to experience, they are trying to describe the beauty of Perumal in all three positions, as he is sitting, as he is sleeping, and as he is walking or standing. So this is what they try to experience in today's Pasuram, right? The process of Perumal coming out of that home and all the way going to that throne. So that is the process that they're going to describe in today's Pasuram. So that is the context for this Pasuram. So now, mAri malai muzhangil mannikkidanthurangum Siriya singam arivittu teeviluttu. That is what they are describing. So Mari means during the rainy season. During the rainy season, malai muzhangil means in a mountain cave, right? In the cave of a certain mountain, right? Malai muzhangil in a mountain cave. Mannikkidandu means he is someone who has settled in a very unmovable way, right? Settled without any movement. Urangam, he is someone who is sleeping in that cave. Siriya Singam, how are they describing him? They are describing him like a valorous or a heroic, valiant lion, right? Arivitru Teeviluttu, they are saying he has finally risen. He arose and he, is fiercely seeing, right? This is what they are describing. In other words, what happens during rainy seasons? During rainy seasons, typically animals like bears and lions and so on, they resort to caves, right? Now, within this cave, apparently, Krishna's home, they are trying to compare to a cave where, he's somewhere inside. As if, the only way we know he is there inside is because he's not present anywhere outside. That is how we know that he is inside, right? Otherwise, he would make some mischief somewhere if Krishna is present, right? So that way they came to know that he is inside. Now, but he's not making any sounds from within. Just like, in a sleeping lion, right? It won't make any sounds, right? It is happy inside, sleeping. A sleeping lion is typically with the lioness. So similarly, here also Krishna is sleeping along with Nappinai Pirati, who so therefore, he's also not making any sounds or anything. He's just inside. So that is the scene that they are trying to describe. So typically during rainy seasons is when these animals would go inside and they would actually take rest and they would happily sleep in a mountain cave. So Mannikkidandu, he's not showing any signs of movement. All we know is that he exists inside. Other than that, he's not showing any signs of movement, right? And what is he doing? He's sleeping inside. How is he sleeping? He's sleeping in a very heroic way. And finally, he's coming out. He has risen and he's opening his fierce eyes, right? He's starting to see fiercely. As a lion, when it opens its eyes after its sleep, it's very fierce to look at. So typically it is described that even a lioness would not dare to come in front of the lion when a lion opens its eyes. Okay, so that is how they are trying to visualize Krishna coming out of that house. Next. Veri Mayirponga, Eppadum Perundudari. Now, one of the first things that the lion does after it wakes up and comes out, right, after, casting its glance over everything in a very fierce way, it tries to shake its head. And the mane, right, the hair that is present for the lion, it has a certain fragrance. It tries to shake it vigorously and experience that fragrance, which is a symbol of its heroism, right? It tries to experience that. So that is how they are describing Krishna coming out, as if, like a lion is coming out. And Eppadum Perundadari, they are saying that he is someone who is, shaking the different parts of his body. Even we, not just lions, but even human beings, the first thing they wake up is they open their eyes and gradually they try to stretch their body like this, stretch their hands and stretch their legs and, try to stretch themselves. Someone who was sleeping in a very cuddled way, right? They try to expand their body, right? So that is what she's trying to visualize here, right? Eppadum Perundudari Moorinimirandhu Morange Purapattu. Now she's saying that he's trying to stretch his body, right, and shake different parts of his body, and he's trying to straighten things up and expand his body. Previously, like a lion was, cuddled inside a cave, lion is cuddled, but after it comes out, it stretches itself, right? Similarly, Krishna also is stretching himself, apparently. And then Murangi Purapattu. What would a lion do after that? It would roar, just to convey to all the creatures that I have finally woken up. In this way, they are starting to see Krishna's speech coming out as if he is roaring. Podarma Pole. Now, who is Krishna? Krishna cannot be compared to a mere lion. Why? There are certain aspects of lion that definitely are applicable to Krishna. The valor, the gait, the confidence, the pride, the ferociousness. All these traits of a lion are certainly present in Krishna. But you don't ever consider a lion to be very cool, very pleasing, right? Very soft, very gentle, right? These are not things that you would see in a lion. So therefore they said, Podarma Pole. Someone he is Pole, who is just similar to a lion, but not exactly like lion, right? Because there are things in him, such as his softness, his kindness, his gentleness, his, beauty, and all of those things, which would come out, the sweetness and so on. You would never say a lion is a very sweet creature, right? You don't say a lion is a very cute creature, right? So all those things are also present in Krishna. So therefore they are saying that although you are like a majestic lion, you are someone similar to a majestic lion, but we want to see your beautiful form, right? That is what they are trying to say. Therefore they are saying, Ni Puvai Puvanna. You are someone who is like having that Atasi Pushpa Samkasam, right? Like Krishnastakam says, he has the beautiful complexion of an English violet, right? That is the color in which he is present. So they want to experience the natural beauty, the Saundaryam, the Saukumaryam, the Madhuryam, the Saugandhyam, the Shitalatvam, Manoharatvam. These are all the qualities that they want to experience in this lion, right? Therefore, they are now comparing him to a beautiful English violet flower, right? Now they are saying, from your temple, right, deep within your house, here Koil refers to the palace of the king, right, where he is present, right? From that, come outside, they are saying. Ingane pondarali. So, nindra, un koil nindra, ingane pondarali. So they are saying that you please come out of that place, come to this place, right? Come out. In this way, they are trying to indicate to him. What they are saying is, ascend the illustrious throne, which is very lofty, right? Yam vandu karyam aarayindu arul. So now finally they are saying, now you please understand the purpose of our visit. Yam vandu karyam, what task we want to accomplish. You inquire about that and you please arul, do the needful, right? Show your grace, do the needful. In this way, they are trying to say. In other words, the external meaning of this Pasuram is they are trying to visualize Krishna waking up from his sleep, coming out and opening the door, and they are asking him to come out, and they are trying to visualize Krishna to be similar to a lion, just like a lion sleeps in a cave during the rainy season. And once the rainy season is over, the lion comes out. And some of the first symptoms you would see in that lion is that it would cast its fierce glance over everything. It would it would shake its head vigorously and experience the fragrance of its manes. And then it would stretch its body and it would roar, indicating to everybody that, finally it has woken up. And then finally, it has a certain gait with which it walks. And while it is walking, now their meditation on lion stopped, and now they are saying, all of these characteristics we want in you, because you have all these characteristics, but we want to experience your beautiful form, which is tender, which is soft, which is soothing, which is calm, which is peaceful, right? That is the form in which we want to see you, right? So you please come out. Like, Krishna might be saying, do you want me to come like Narasimha or something? They are saying, no, yes, you definitely possess those characteristics for sure, but show your tender form, your beautiful form, the sweet form that we want to look at. In this way, they are trying to call Krishna. They're asking him to walk, come out of the house all the way through, and then ascend the throne, and then from there inquire about the purpose of their visit, and then do the needful. Right? This is the external meaning of today's Pasuram. Now we will try to understand the internal meanings of today's Pasuram. The first thing that they are talking about is mAri malai muzhangil mannikkidanthurangum. What they are trying to describe is a certain rainy season, right? Generally, the Vedic vacation period was the rainy season, as opposed to summer season or winter season, which is what today's vacation period is. That was the Vedic vacation time. Typically, the nature of rains is that everything is inundated with water, right? When clouds take over, one completely loses direction, right? And you can't travel. It's not like you have street lights and all of that. Even today, right? If the rains come, if there is a heavy rain or something, our visibility is reduced when we are trying to drive, right? And in some highways and so on, if water accumulates, it is difficult for cars to go through those flooded areas. So we typically get weather warnings and messages on our phone that avoid those highways where water has accumulated and so on, streets where water has accumulated and so on, right? So rainy seasons are typically not preferred for travel, right? One would want to stay at home, so they would sort of experience some sort of staycation, right? In the Vedic time frame, people used to observe what is called Chaturmasya. So those would be the 2 months of the rainy season and the 2 months of the Sharad Rutu, right after the rainy season, Varsha Rutu and Sharad Rutu, right? These are the 4 months of Chaturmasya that they would observe. During this time, typically all the animals, animals like, bears and lions and tigers and so on, these animals would go into caves and stay inside caves, and they wouldn't come out. During this time, they would typically go and sleep and enjoy with their, female and family and so on. They would have their family time during this time. Similarly, even human beings, they would not go and work during the rainy season in the Vedic times. They used to use the other seasons for working and, earning and storing things and so on. Everything that they would store, they would try to use during the rainy season. They would store for the rainy season because that was the season where it would be hard to go out and get anything. So typically they would all stay home. Even in the Ramayana we see, right, when Sugriva, Rama, he defeated Vali, right? And Sugriva was rethroned, right? He was put back on throne. Rama gave him time, and Sugriva was enjoying, right, the 4 months of rainy season. But even after the rainy season was over, he didn't respond, which is when Rama got angry, right? So that was typically used as a resting period. Typically, no wars would be waged during that time. Even the kings and so on, they would rest during that time. So that was a proper, resting season for everybody. Now, what is this Varsha Kala indicative of? This Varsha Kala is indicative of the total pralaya, right? At the time of pralaya, what happens? Everything is inundated with water. Clouds called Samvartaka clouds, they take over. One completely loses direction. Markandeya Maharshi, he describes in the Mahabharata how Varshamana hi aharnisham plavayanti jagat sarvam ambhobhir munisattama. In this way, he describes how with waters, jagat sarvam plavayanti, everything gets inundated with waters. Where did these waters come from? Varshamana hi aharnisham. Day and night it would rain. Right? For 100 years continuously it would rain. It is what would happen at the time of pralaya. Now, when we say pralaya, what is the pralaya we are talking about? There are four kinds of pralayas. One is called nitya pralaya, one is called naimittika pralaya, one is called prakritika pralaya, and the fourth one is called atyantika pralaya. Okay? What is nitya pralaya? Nitya pralaya means every day's loss of objects, right? Every day so many people die, so many creatures die. Then there is a loss of objects. We keep losing things on a day-to-day basis. We keep losing people, we keep losing memory, we keep losing abilities. About 98% of the body cells, they regenerate in 1 year. Okay, it is also said that about 330 billion cells are replaced daily in the body. So all of this is nitya pralaya, right? Every day there is a replacement that is going. This is nitya pralaya. Naimittika pralaya means at the end of a day of Brahma, there is a certain pralaya that happens. Okay, at this time, all the lokas, they enter into the body of Paramatma. At that time, Lord Narayana, he has all these worlds in his body, and at that time, Brahma sleeps on the lotus, and Narayana, he lies down on a certain banyan leaf as Vatapatra Shayani. Okay, that is how he lies. Everything is consumed by him at that time, and everywhere around there is no visibility of anything except water. No other creature is visible except water. And he lies down at that time, and this is the vision that Markandeya Maharshi had. He had a desire to see what would happen at Pralaya. So Lord Narayana gave him that vision of what would happen at Pralaya. Everything is consumed by Narayana, everything is within his body. He alone lies like a baby on a leaf. Right? That is the vision he saw. This is called Naimittika Pralaya. Right? Now, that is a scene where it is being described that everything is inundated with floods and so on. Right? So it is indicative of Pralaya. There is also something called Prakriti Pralaya or Prakriti Pralaya. Prakritika Pralaya or Prakriti Pralaya. What is that? That is total dissolution. This is dissolution that happens at the end of Brahma's lifespan. Okay? The previous pralaya we talked about was pralaya that would happen at the end of a day of Brahma. At the end of every day of Brahma, before the next day begins, there is a pralaya that happens. There is a bigger pralaya that happens. This is called total dissolution. This happens at the end of Brahma's life. Right? At this time, all things, Mahat, Ahankara, Panchatanmatras, all these things enter Paramatma. Right? Now, what happens at this time? The land, any land that exists anywhere, that land gets dissolved in water. Okay? The water gets evaporated by fire. The fire completely is, blown out by wind or air. That air is consumed by space. In this way, things resolve into their original source. The Veda says, Akashat Vayuhu, Vayor Agnihi, Agner Apaha, Adbhya Pruthivi. In this way, the Veda describes the creation sequence. This is the evolution sequence that the Veda describes. Okay? The Veda does not describe an evolution saying, monkeys existed and from monkeys man came and so on. The evolution that Vedas talk about is different. They talk about a certain evolution where, from Akasha, Vayu came about. From Vayu, Agni came about. From Agni, water came about. Apaha came about. From Apaha, Pruthivi came about. In this way, Prithivya, Oshadayaha, Oshadibhyo, Annam, Annat, Purusha. In this way, the Veda describes a sequence. Now, at Pralaya, what happens? Involution happens. That means this Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi. Now, Prithvi goes back into Apaha. Apaha goes back into Agni. Agni goes back into Vayu, and Vayu goes back into Akasha. In this way, everything is resolved back into the source. And everything finally goes back into Akshara. Akshara goes back into Tamas. Tamaha, Pare Deve, Eki Bhavati. that this tamas goes and stays with Narayana as if it is one with Narayana. Right? In this way, it remains at the time of total dissolution. So only he exists and nothing else exists. So this is the scene that they are trying to visualize. This process is called Samvarga Vidya. Samvarga Vidya. Okay, this is one of the Brahma Vidyas that is described in the Upanishads. Right? We were talking about 32 Brahma Vidyas. We have previously learned about what Vidyas? We have learnt about Antaraditya Vidya, we have learnt about Dahara Vidya, we have learnt about Paryanka Vidya, right? Now we are being taught another Vidya called Samvarga Vidya. Samvarga Vidya means meditation on Paramatma at the time of total dissolution as the complete consumer of everything. Paramatma, he absorbs everything into him. Okay, therefore he is called Samvarga. He is something he is called Atta. Atta means, the definition is Charachara Grahanat, says Vyasa in the Brahma Sutras. That means everything sentient and insentient is consumed by him at the time of pralaya. Right? In this way, even the Katha Upanishad describes that Yasya Brahmacha Kshatrancha Ubhe Bhavati Odanaha Mrityuhu Yasya Upashechanam. It says that with death as the means, or like that, if you see death as the spoon, using that spoon, he tries to consume, both the sentient and the insentient beings. Both become his meal at the time of pralaya. He consumes everything. Everything goes into him. Just like, we use a cone, right, to eat an ice cream. And after finishing the ice cream, we also eat the cone. Similarly, Paramatma finally consumes the death also. In this way, everything, mrityuhu yasya upasechanam. In this way, everything is finally consumed by Paramatma. Therefore, he is called Atta, right? So, in this way, we are being described how Paramatma is called Samvarga. At that time, he alone exists. How does he exist? All we can say about him is that something exists. In that way, he exists. Can we describe anything more about him? We are, he exists as if, there is no sign of movement whatsoever at that time, right? Everything at the time of pralaya, movement happens in Prakriti because of constant fluctuations in the three gunas of Prakriti, right? At the time of pralaya, the sattva, raja, and tamo gunas, these three gunas come into a complete state of equilibrium. So therefore, there is no movement whatsoever. So everything exists as if at rest. So that scene that they are trying to visualize there, saying during the rainy season, that means in the time of total pralaya, right? Mannikkidandu, as if without any movement, this particular tattva, it exists, right? Paramatma tattva exists, right? He exists. That is all that can be said. So another vidya called Sadvidya is also being meditated upon here. Sat means existence. Sat Vidya means meditation on Paramatma as something that exists at all times. Right? Existence is a characteristic of Paramatma. Why is that a unique characteristic of Paramatma? Because when we look at the three tattvas, Jiva, Prakriti, and Paramatma, Prakriti goes through transformation in Swarupa and Swabhava, right? But Jiva, it goes through transformation only in its Swabhava, but Jiva's Swarupa remains the same. It doesn't undergo transformation. But Paramatma is that Tattva who does not undergo transformation either in Swarupa or Swabhava. He ever remains the same. In other words, if you look at Prakriti, what happens? Prakriti can be seen just like clay. If you are given a clay ball, right, you can constantly transform its shape, size, color, and all of that, right? So in this way, you cannot say that, previously it is just a ball of clay. After some time, you may make a small animal out of it, right? In this way, its nature has completely transformed. This is Prakriti. Now, Jiva has certain knowledge, okay? The jiva swarupa remains the same, but the jiva swabhava changes because of coming in contact with Prakriti. Just like when you light a certain lamp, the lamp and its intensity remains the same. But depending upon what you cover that lamp with, its intensity is reduced for someone who is viewing that lamp from outside. Right? So jiva is also like that. That means if you cover it with a thin pink paper, right? Then you get pink light out of that lamp. But the true light is, in that the true color of the flame is the true color of that lamp. And the true brightness and intensity, the luminosity of that particular lamp is its true intensity. But when it is covered with a thin pink paper, then we see a pink glow coming out of it. If we cover it with a thick paper, then that glow is reduced. In this way, depending upon which form, which body the jiva occupies, the jiva's intensity becomes reduced. The original intensity remains the same, but it's the body which is making the intensity reduced. Therefore, although the jiva has unlimited jnanam, right, that jnanam does not completely manifest when the jiva occupies the body, right? That is the reason why, we see that the trees and so on, they exist as if there is no movement in them. If you look at, tortoise or a snail and all these creatures, right, they barely make a movement, right? And, after several minutes, there is a small movement in them. Slowly they move, right? But if you look at other creatures and so on, they display a lot of passion and vigor and energy and all of that, right? There is a lot of movement happening in some other creatures, right? Lot of intellect, symptoms of intelligence are displayed in higher creatures like human beings. But when you look at animals, they do not display symptoms of intelligence, right? What is the difference? What is causing the difference between these? It is because although the swarupa remains the same, the swabhava is changing for the jiva. But Paramatma, he also occupies every form, right? Just like a jiva enters a certain body, Paramatma also enters along with the jiva. But Paramatma does not get affected just like the jiva gets affected because of the body. Why? What is causing the difference? Because it is the jiva who has the karma. It is karma which is the limiting factor. Paramatma does not have karma. Therefore, although he enters every body, he is not limited by its effects. Right? The limitations of the body do not apply to Paramatma who is present inside every body. But those limitations apply only to the jiva who is present in that body. So therefore, he remains as if without any movement. Right? That means there is no effect on him. Therefore, he always exists. He exists in a way that there is no transformation even in his swarupa or swabhava. Therefore, the Sadvidya tells us that he exists. So here also the existence of Krishna inside that cave is being indicated. But in other words, this is Sadvidya. This is another Brahma Vidya that is being talked about here. Meditation on Paramatma as the ever-existing one. Okay? Ever-existing in the sense, there is no transformation either in his swarupa or swabhava. Okay? So, and there are two phases in which Paramatma exists. One is Karyavastha, the other one is Karanavastha. The causal state, the state of effect. In the causal state, he exists. Paramatma is called, Sukshma Chit Achit Vishishta Paramatma. That means he exists with the sentient and insentient beings in a subtle state. Just like we described what happens at the time of pralaya, everything exists within the body of Narayana at the time of pralaya. So they are in a very subtle state at that time. Those gross forms by which you can identify that, this person is this and this person is this, you cannot identify at the time of pralaya. They all exist. When we say Paramatma consumes everybody, that consumption is not similar to how we consume. Once we consume something, the thing gets digested. Its form changes. But when Paramatma consumes us, nothing happens to us. He just puts all of us in a certain state where nothing happens to us. He protects us from that pralaya so that we don't get destroyed, right? And the entire prakriti is taken away. All the jivas are actually placed in a suspended state. If you have ever seen, a lab, right, a science lab and so on, where they suspend babies in liquids and so on. If you have ever seen that, right, frogs and babies and different things, they suspend in liquids, right? Why do they do that? So that they preserve the state of that particular creature, that particular body. Similarly, Paramatma preserves all of us in his body so that nothing happens to our nature, right? In that way, he preserves. Every jiva, he is able to identify, but we are not able to identify. The state of pralaya is such that if you enter a dark room, you cannot say what is different from what. Everything exists in that room, but you cannot identify one thing as distinct from another because of the darkness. That is the state of pralaya, where everything exists, but they exist in a very subtle state where you cannot identify one thing as separate from another. Okay? This is the state of cause, karanavastha, right? In this phase, Paramatma exists with Prakriti and Jivas in a subtle state. So therefore, he is called Sukshma, Chit, Achit, Vishishta, Paramatma. Okay? Then, currently, the state in which we are right now is the state in which Paramatma, he makes every jiva enter a certain body based on their karma. And along with the jiva, he also enters that body in order to make that jiva experience the results of their karmas. Therefore, he also enters every body along with the jiva. Here, Paramatma exists inside the body of every jiva, inside the cave of the heart of the that particular body. Both jiva and Paramatma reside in the cave of the heart. So therefore, they are comparing it to a cave, right? Here, that Paramatma exists in the cave. So here too, how many times do we feel that Paramatma exists in me? We barely ever feel that. We don't even feel that I am a jiva who is distinct from this body. Mostly we think I am this body, right? But there is a jiva who is present inside this body, which is what we truly are. And there is Paramatma also, which is present inside this body, right? So we don't identify that. So that Paramatma is called Sthula Chit Achit Vishishta Paramatma. That Paramatma is now present with gross forms of Prakriti and Jiva. Every Jiva has attained a certain gross form right now. Gross form means a form in which we can clearly say this Jiva is distinct from this Jiva. We can say this tree is different from, this person. This person is different from that person. That person is different from that rabbit. That rabbit is different from that squirrel. In this way, we can distinguish and identify every creature as distinct from every other creature. This is the state in which every jiva has attained gross forms. Therefore, we call Sthula Chit Achit Vishishta Paramatma. Why do we say Vishishta, Vishishta each time? Because he always exists with these two things inseparable from him. Whether in the state of the cause or in the state of the effect, Paramatma is never separate from Jiva and Prakriti. Jiva and Prakriti are always like, just like fragrance is never separate from a flower, just like brightness is never separate from sun or a luminous body. In this way, these things can never be separated from Paramatma. He is always qualified with those characteristics. Just like fragrance is a quality of a flower, just like brightness is a quality of sun, similarly, Jiva and Prakriti can be considered as attributes of Paramatma, right? So Paramatma always exists with them, right? This is basically what Vishishta Advaita is. He is one, but he is one containing Jiva and Prakriti, right? This is what is being described. So when we say exists, Paramatma always exists and his nature doesn't change, right? That existence is being indicated using, he existing without any movement there. And then what is he doing? He is sleeping, they are saying, right? So these are some of the attributes that are described here. So Samvarga Vidya and Sadvidya, these two things are meditated upon here. And then they are comparing him to a lion. Why a lion? Because the reference here is to Narasimha avatar, right? That is the avatara that is being meditated using this particular Pasuram, right? Because if we look at Nrsimha Tapaniya Upanishad, that Upanishad clearly identifies Nrsimha as the Shrushti, Sthiti, and Layakaraka, right? Even Vishnu Dharmottara, it says that Harihi Sankarshanatmena Nrsimha Vapur Dharaha, that using Sankarshana. Now Paramatma has three other vyuhas. What are they? Aniruddha, Sankarshana, and Pradyumna. These are, when we say vyuhas, we can think that Paramatma has these kinds of energies. We discussed about these things in the initial class, right? The nature of Aniruddha is that Aniruddha, he preserves. As Sankarshana, he consumes everything. As Pradyumna, he creates everything. So this Pradyumna Shakti is what enters into a Jiva called Brahma. This Sankarshana Shakti is what enters into the Jiva called Rudra. Therefore, even, our Puranas describe very clearly, Sankarshanatmako Rudro Nishkramayati Jagatrayam Kalpante Yasya Vaktrebhyo Vishanala Shikojvalaha Sankarshanatmako Rudro Nishkramayati Jagatrayam. Uh, in other words, everything is consumed by Rudra, who is having Sankarshana as his Antaryami. Sankarshana exists within Rudra, and he is the one who causes the dissolution of everything, right? In this way, we are told how this Sankarshana is nothing but this Narasimha Tattva, right? This Narasimha Tattva is the one who consumes everything. That is the reason why when Narasimha appeared, he appeared with that destructive nature, right? That fierce form. So that form of the Lord is being meditated upon here. What kind of lion they are saying? They are saying, malai muzhangil. This lion is something that enters in a mountain cave. Where does Paramatma reside? He resides in the cave of the heart, say the Upanishads. And similarly, Mahabharata also says, Mahabharata and Bhagavatam and all these say, dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. Right, within the cave of the heart is where Paramatma resides. So that is what is being described here by saying he resides in a mountain cave. Then he exists without any movement, right? This we have discussed, right? There are statements in the Upanishads saying, asatva idamagra asit. Paramatma exists as if there is nothing that exists. In this way, he is described as asat. There is another Upanishad called Chandogya, which says, sateva saumya idamagra asit. That in the beginning, Sat alone existed. Nothing else existed. It is this Sat that existed in the beginning, which got transformed into everything you are seeing here, which is having names and forms. There is a certain discussion that happens between a father and a son. He asks, if you know one thing, you will know everything, right? In this way, there is a question that is discussed. How do you know everything if you know one thing? This is a natural doubt, right? Just because you know one thing doesn't mean you know everything. If you know a pen, does that mean you know a table? If you know a table, does that mean you know a book? If you know a book, does that mean you know mozzarella cheese? No, there is no relationship between these things, right? So if you know one, it doesn't mean that you know other things. But here, that is the question that is being discussed. What is the one thing that if you know, you will know everything? This is a question that the child gets asked, and the child comes back and asks the father, what is the one thing that you know will know everything? Then he comes and shows one example to the child. Can you look at this clay? He says. He says, yes, I look at this clay. Now he says, it is this clay that gets transformed into cups, plates, pots, and so many other ceramic substances, right? So if you know this clay, you know all of these things that are made out of clay. Similarly, there is a lump of gold, right? Gold bar. It is that gold bar that gets transformed into bangles, necklaces, rings, and earrings, and, so many ornaments, right? Can be made out of that gold. So if you know that one gold bar, you know all these things that are made of gold. What does it mean to know? That means all these things exhibit the properties of that gold, right? This characteristics of that gold. Gold is contained within all of those things. So if you realize this, you realize everything. Now, what is that one thing that is common to all the things that we described previously? A book, a table, a pen, mozzarella cheese, or pizza, or, noodles. What is common to all these things? The common thing is Paramatma exists in all of them, right? So if you know Paramatma, you would know everything that is created by Paramatma, because he exists inside everything and causes its nature to happen. The nature of a pen to write, where is that coming from? Because Paramatma is present inside the pen. The nature of a table to support things, where is that supporting nature coming from? Because of Paramatma. The nature of mozzarella cheese to give that cheesy structure to everything, and the taste and the color, where is that coming from? From Paramatma. Similarly, the taste of the noodles or pasta or whatever we enjoy, where is that coming from? That is also coming from Paramatma. So he is existing in everything, therefore everything is getting its current state, right? He is the one who is the beginning of their state. He is the one who maintains that state. He is the one who ends that state eventually. So Paramatma exists in the entire creation. So it is that the Sadvidya teaches. So that is what they are trying to meditate here. Now they are saying he is like a heroic lion, a valiant lion, a very valorous lion. Shiriya Singam, they are saying. What does this mean? Just because Paramatma is sleeping doesn't mean one can go and dare to come near him. Even when he is sleeping, he carries all of his jnana, bala, aishwarya, virya, shakti, teja, all these qualities. They do not leave Paramatma even when he is sleeping. So just because Paramatma, that means when he is sleeping means they are describing the Karana Avastha. It is not like Paramatma has qualities only in the Karya Avastha. In the Karana Avastha, Paramatma does not have any attributes. That is untrue. Even in the Karana Avastha, Paramatma has all attributes in full. Right? That is why we are described Purna Madaha, Purna Vidam, Purnat, Purna Udachate, Purnasya Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vasishyate. That Paravasudeva, Vyuhavasudeva, Vibhavavasudeva, Antaryami, and Archavataram all are the same. Right? There is no difference between them. They are all the same. Just because he exists as Paravasudeva doesn't mean he is different, and just because Archamurti exists here, we cannot say that Archamurti does not have any qualities. Wherever Paramatma is present, in whichever form Paramatma is present, whether he is present in a form which is actively responding or whether he is present in a form that is only passively responding, Paramatma is full with his attributes. His attributes never depart from him. He's always, even the Archamurti that is present in our homes is also filled with the same qualities of Paramatma, because Archamurti is himself. It is not that Paramatma resides inside the Archamurti. Archamurti is Paramatma. We have to treat Archamurti with that feeling, right? So therefore, we are being told here that these attributes do not leave him. Just like, he's sleeping. Just because a lion is sleeping doesn't mean the lion's nature will go away. Its heroic nature, its valor, and so on will not depart from a lion. It may show at one time, it may not show at other time. Similarly, Paramatma may show his attributes in one avatara and may not show in another avatara. So we cannot say that just because he's showing his attributes, he has them, and if he doesn't show, he doesn't have them. Right? That is not true. Whether he shows or doesn't show, all his attributes are present in him. Sita Devi is also present in him. Here also, we are being reminded of one statement from Ramayana, where in the Kakasura Vrittanta, Sita Devi says, Saha Maya Bodhitaha Sriman Sukasuptaha Parantapaha. That Sukasuptaha Parantapaha, that even if he is sleeping, he is always Parantapa. That he is always carrying that ability to destroy the enemy or inimical forces. So therefore, one should not assume that Paramatma is without any power at any point. Paramatma always have power. So that is one thing that they are indicating here. And then other thing they are describing is, just like when a lion goes and sleeps in a cave, it doesn't sleep all alone. It always sleeps with the female lion, the lioness, right? Similarly, Paramatma, even in the Sukshma Avastha, even in the causal state, he is always with Lakshmi, because Lakshmi is Nityanapayani, right? She is always with him. She never departs from him, right? He's always with Shri. Next, they are saying, Arivittu, this Paramatma has finally arisen, right? How does he arise? What does it mean Paramatma is waking up? Now, a lion does not wake up out of fear that some other animal is coming, therefore they are coming to attack me, I have to wake up. In this way, lion never wakes up. It does not wake up if someone tries to wake it up. It wakes up on its own. When the time is right, it just wakes up. Similarly, Paramatma also wakes up when the time is right. What does it mean Paramatma wakes up? Does he also sleep like all of us? When it's total pralaya, maybe after conducting so many activities throughout creation, he's tired and he wants some rest and he's sleeping. So once it's creation time again, he woke up from his deep sleep. No, it's not like that. So Paramatma's rest is nothing but, it's called Yoga Nidra. Yoga Nidra means, yoga means how to make the jiva attain the final purushartha, which is himself. This is the meditation that he does during the Nidra. So he keeps waiting for the jiva to get the body again. During the state of pralaya, the jiva is devoid of the body. The jiva, all the jivas are devoid of their bodies. So Paramatma keeps waiting for that time of creation to come, where the jivas can again be awarded bodies, and finally they can again try to practice attainment of purusharthas. They can try to aspire for attainment of purusharthas, one of which is himself, right? So therefore, that is the meditation that he keeps doing. So the time of creation, the onset of the time of creation is the time at which we declare that he has woken up. That is what it means, right? Then he thinks, Bahusyam prajayayeti, that may I become many. What does it mean, may I become many? It means that he enters anena jivena atmana anupravishya namarupe vyakaramani, says the Chandogya Upanishad. Along with the jiva, Paramatma also enters every form, and then each thing gets its name and form. In this way, he enters everything to make the jivas experience the results of their karmas. Then we are told, Tiviluttu, Vei Mair Ponga. Two other things are being told here. Ti means fiercely, Viluttu, he is seeing. So Paramatma, a lion, we described previously that a lion is very, its first glance is actually very fierce, right? Similarly, Paramatma also, when he, at the time of creation, his glance is so intense, his vision is so powerful that no one dares to come in front of him at that time, right? Now, we are also being described that the lion actually shakes its mane vigorously. So Paramatma is also described as Sarvagandhaha, that all the beautiful fragrances of Paramatma are ever present with him. Now, by saying Tivadutthu, they are saying the Ti is indicating the fiery nature or Tejas, right? And finally, they are saying Veri Mair Ponga, that the mane is fragrant. By talking about fragrance or gandha, they are indicating Prithvi. In other words, they are meditating upon the creation sequence, that from Tejas, Apaha comes, from Apaha, Prithvi comes. This is the creation sequence that Chandogya Upanishad provides. So that portion of creation sequence, Andal is trying to meditate when she is saying, Tividuttu Veri Mayer Ponga, right? Eppadum perundudari, Morinimirundu Morangi Purappattu. Now, it is being described that the lion stretches itself. Previously, it was cuddled, it was coiled in the cave, right? Right now, it is stretching itself. Similarly, in the state of causal state, Paramatma has the jivas and prakriti inside him. At that time, if we look at the space, everything will be empty. Nothing exists at that time. It exists as if nothing is there. Once the lion comes out and stretches itself, we see the huge form of the lion. Similarly, once the creation happens through Brahma, right, everything appears completely expanded. It does not mean that anything new got created. Just like we think that creation means new things came about. Nothing new comes about. All the jivas that got created already existed at the time of pralaya. All these jivas were jivas from the previous creation cycle. So none of them newly, formed, right? It is not similarly entire prakriti. This entire body is prakriti, right? And all the things we are seeing in nature, right? Everything is prakriti, right? The sun, the moon, the stars, the mountains, the rivers, and everything is prakriti. None of these things have gone at the time of pralaya. They all existed in Paramatma in a way they are indistinguishable. In that state, you cannot say that this is this and this is that. That is how they existed. Now, I'll give an example. If we eat sambar, for instance, right? In sambar, we know that salt exists, right? We know that tamarind exists, but can we distinguish that, this is tamarind? Can we point out? Unless somebody puts pieces of tamarind, that's a different story. But if let's say we are using tamarind concentrate or, tamarind juice or something like that, you cannot distinguish. You cannot show where tamarind is. You cannot show where salt is. But, salt is everywhere, right? It is in a state where you cannot separate one thing from another and show that this is this and this is this, right? But before that, they were in a state where salt could be distinguished from turmeric could be distinguished from coriander powder could be distinguished from pepper powder, everything could be distinguished. Once the sambar is made, you cannot distinguish, right? All we can do is this much. We cannot undo this. From the sambar, can you again separate out everything? That is not possible. But Paramatma has that ability. From that prakriti, which is everything, together, he is again capable of making things separate, right? mountain ranges like Himalayas and so on, they existed in the previous creation too. Again, they exist in this creation too, right? Similarly, rivers like Ganga, they existed in previous creation too. They exist in this creation too. So the same thing come and form again, but a different jiva will be placed in charge of those things depending upon their karmas, right? So in this way, the assignment is being done again. There is a certain reassignment that is done in the new creation cycle, but the same things that existed in the previous creation cycle will exist at the time of pralaya in an indistinguishable form, and those same things will again exist in a distinguishable form in the next creation cycle, and this cycle continues on and on and on. So that stretching is indicating the expansion of everything at the time of creation, right? That is being talked about here. Now, how does Paramatma expand? All these tattvas like Tejas, Apaha, Prithvi, all these combine to form a certain egg. Within that egg, a certain jiva called Brahma is introduced. And within that Brahma, he himself enters. And then through Brahma, he makes the creation happen. It means he is the one who creates through Brahma by being his Antaryam. Then we are being told, Mudangi, that there is a certain roar that comes up at that time. What is this roar of the lion? As soon as the lion comes out and stretches, there is a roar that comes out from the mouth of that lion. They are indicating, using that roar, that Paramatma, he gives the Vedas to Brahma, so that Brahma knows how to perform creation, right? He himself supports Brahma's creation process by being within him, but Brahma as a jiva should know what to do at the time of creation. What all things need to be created, he should know, right? How should they be created, he should know. All of that knowledge, he is the one. Yo brahmanam vidadati purvam, yo vai vedamscha prahinoti tasmai, says the Upanishad, right? So similarly, just as described in the Upanishad, he is the one who gives brahmanam vidadati purvam. Whatever was previously, created, the same at the beginning of creation, he is the one who gives this knowledge to Brahma, right? Knowledge of the Vedas. Now they are saying, Podharma Pole, that you are someone, we want you to, you are someone who is similar to that lion. They are only saying Podharma Pole, right? That means there is only similarity. Now he might be asking, how do you want me to appear? You are glorifying a lion. Do you want me to appear as Narasimha or Raghava Simha, right? Even Rama is described as Simha at multiple places in the Valmiki Ramayana. Right? Sita Devi, at one place to Ravana, she describes, right? Mahabhutam Mahoraskam Simha Vikranta Gaminam Nrisimham Simha Samkasham Aham Ramam Anuvrata. That I follow Rama. How do I follow? Very sincerely, I follow that Rama. That means I stick to Rama. I have taken a vow to abide by that kind of Rama who is Mahabhutam Mahoraskam. That means he is someone who is ambidextrous and he is broad-chested. Simha Vikranta Gaminam, right? He is someone who has the gait, like he's a lion-like person in his strides. Nrisimha Simha Samkasham, right? He is supreme among people. That is the kind of Rama that I have taken shelter of. Here she is describing Rama to a Simha. Then at another place, Lakshmana tells Rama that, when he was waiting in Kishkindha Kanda, right, when he was waiting for Sugriva and Sugriva did not respond, Rama becomes very fierce, right? At that point too, he says, you please contain yourself, right? You are here like a monsoon lion, right? Like a lion who is during the monsoon season. You are capable of eliminating the enemy, but you please contain yourself. To control your angle, I'll go and settle the deal with Sugriva. I'll figure out what is happening. Don't attack. So therefore, our acharyas like Vedanta Desikan and so on in Raghuvira Gadyam, they say Raghava Simha Jaya Jaya, right? They address him as Raghava Simha. So in this way, he may be saying, do you want me to appear as Raghava Simha or Narasimha? That they are saying, no, carry those traits like, gravity, the valor and etc., but not necessarily that form. Then what form do you want? He's asking. They are saying, Ni Puvai Puvanna. They are saying, you please come with your, we want to see a very beautiful form, a form that is filled with tenderness, right? It doesn't mean that lion's form is not beautiful. Our Alvars have glorified even the lion's form is the most beautiful form. He is called Adagiya Singer, right? He is the most beautiful form. His beauty as lion is actually the best in the eyes of the Alvars. Why? Because as a lion being beautiful is different, as a human being beautiful is different, but when you stitch the two together, for it to be beautiful is a different level altogether. So that is the beauty he accomplished. So therefore, they have described him to be beautiful in that form too. But the Gopikas wanted a form that was tender, a form that was sweet, a form that was cool looking, right? A form that was, pleasing to their hearts immediately when they see, not something that is fear striking immediately, right? That is what they were looking for. So they were saying that. Un koil ninnagane pondarali. Now what they are saying? They are saying un koil, first of all, right? Your temple or your home, your king's home, right? Previously they said Nandagopan koil. Now they are saying un koil. What is the difference? Or what are they trying to indicate? Un coil is the same as Nandagopan coil. It's not that they are different, right? But here they are saying un coil. Previously Nandagopan coil. Nandagopan means he is a jiva, right? He is Krishna, Paramatma himself. So the coil of jiva is the same as coil of Paramatma. In other words, the same Paramatma and Jiva reside in the same Omkara. One is indicated by Akara, one is indicated by Makara. So both of them reside in the same Omkara Tattva. Both of them reside in the same cave of the heart. Both the Jiva and the Paramatma reside in the same cave of the heart. So this is what they are trying to indicate. In other words, everywhere where we see Jiva Tattva, we should also be able to see Paramatma Tattva. This is who a true Vaishnava is. A true Vaishnava is a person who is able to love the entire universe as the body of Paramatma. Right? Jagat sarvam shariram te sthairyaste vasudhatalam, says Ramayana. Similarly, tat sarvam vai harestanuhu, tani sarvani tadvapuhu, says Parasara Maharshi, Vishnu Purana. So in this way, Valmiki, Parasara Maharshi, they have all glorified that the entire universe is the body of the Lord. Right? He exists in everything. If he exists in everything, are we able to love everything without hating anything? Are we able to? No, this is something that should be applied carefully. Doesn't mean that when we love everything, when we see Paramatma's tattva in everything, that seeing and loving should be based on our realization. Doesn't mean if a snake is going, we immediately say, oh, Paramatma, I'll go and hug this snake. That we shouldn't do. Right? I mean, if we are like Prahlada, we can do it. Prahlada will not go and actively hug a snake and put it over him. If the snake accidentally comes over him, he still feels this is Paramatma, right? So, in other words, we have to use our discretion, but that ability to see Paramatma everywhere, wherever there is a Jiva Tattva. Even if Jiva Tattva does not exist, Paramatma exists even in Achit Tattvas. This is also something Narasimha showed. He came out of a pillar, right? Pillar is an Achit Tattva, insentient Tattva. But even from pillar he came. So whether it's Chit Tattva or Achit Tattva, everywhere Paramatma exists. Being able to love everything like that without carrying hatred towards anything, hatred towards anybody. One shouldn't hate anybody, right? Jesus Christ says, hate the sin, not the sinner, right? In other words, nobody should hate a person, right? Because of their behaviors or something. Right? One shouldn't, because that particular jiva is also a child of Paramatma, right? When everybody is a child of Paramatma, you're all related to each other through Paramatma. Then how can you hate anybody? You shouldn't hate anybody. But we can hate those behaviors. In other words, behaviors should be detested. If they are detestable behaviors, we have to detest them. We have to condemn them, right? It's not a bad behavior should be appreciated by thinking that everywhere Paramatma exists. Because Dharma Shastra said that is how we have to distinguish. So therefore, in obedience to Dharma Shastra, we definitely don't glorify bad behaviors. But a person need not be hated for displaying those behaviors, because those are just temporary behaviors the person is displaying out of certain bad vasanas. Once those vasanas are gone, the person will not display those behaviors. So therefore, something that is temporary in nature, we don't have to give too much attention and develop hatred towards things. Okay, so that is being indicated here. Then, Un koel ninnagane pondaruli. From your place, you please come here, they are saying. In other words, they are asking Paramatma to move all the from there to there. When Paramatma comes from the Mula Vigraha, the Mula Vigraha itself does not move in a temple, right? But the Utsava Murti is the Murti that moves and comes out, and it even, dances, right? In Divya Deshams, it is very beautiful to observe the dance of the people carrying Utsavamurti, right? Very beautiful ways of Paramatma's gait they try to mimic, right? It is described, Paramatma, one of his names in the Vishnu Sahasranamam is Chaturgatihi, right? Chaturgatihi is one of his names because he has got 4 kinds of gaits, right? What are they? They are described in the Ramayana, right? He is called Purushaha Rishabha, Purusha Rishabha. That means like a Vrishabha, he tries to walk. Then Rama Shardulam. There is the gait of a Shardula or a tiger in him. Then Mattamatanga Gaminam, that he has got the gait of an elephant. Then Simha Vikranta Gaminam, he has got the gait of a lion too. That means, in other words, he has got the obstinate gait of an elephant in him. He has got the valorous gait of a lion in him. He has got the pride that a Vrishabha has in him. He has got the ferociousness of a tiger in his gait as he walks. So all those things are displayed when Rama walks. Similarly, Sita is described like a Hamsa, right? Her walking is like a Hamsa. In this way, their gaits are described beautifully, and they try to mimic some of these things, right, with the Utsavamurti too. So that kind of meditation is what they are trying to do. You know, how when Paramatma is coming, they are trying to experience all these beauties present in his gait as he is trying to walk. கோப்புடைய சீர சிங்காசனத்திலிருந்து யாம் வந்த காரியம் ஆராய்ந்து அருள். So now what they are saying, you please ascend the throne and then we will petition to you so that you can grant our desire. What are they trying to say? In other words, when someone is trying to respond to you in a private setting, there is no guarantee that they'll keep their word. But once they sit on the throne, then out of respect for that throne, they will actually fulfill that particular desire. Therefore, they are asking him to sit on the throne. Now, what is that throne? They are also saying, using this throne, they are indicating the throne is every sentient and insentient entity, right? Because he finally comes into every sentient and insentient entity. So that is something both in Nitya Vibhuti and in Leela Vibhuti. So they are trying to meditate on Paramatma's existence in everything, right? Then we are also described that this throne is the Dharmadi Peetham, right? There is a certain meditation we are taught in Tiruvaradhana. Paramatma resides on a certain throne. He sits, right, on a certain throne along with Sri Bhu Neela Devis and so on, right? And this is borne by Adisesha in Sri Vaikuntha, right? So that is also the seat that they are trying to meditate upon. Then the Pancharatra Shastra, it describes that the divine throne that Paramatma has, it has, the 4 legs on the front, they indicate Dharma, Jnana, Vairagya, and Aishwarya, right? 4 legs on the back, they indicate Adharma, Ajnana, Avairagya, and Anaishwarya. So in this way, they are trying to meditate. In other words, these are the pillars on which Paramatma exists, right? That Dharma is the pillar on which Paramatma exists. Jnana is the pillar on which Paramatma exists. Vairagya is the pillar on which Paramatma exists. Aishwarya is the pillar on which Paramatma exists. When these things do not exist, then in such places you will not see Paramatma. Paramatma's presence is not felt. But yatra yogeshwaro Krishno, yatra partho dhanurdharaha, tatra Sri Vijayo bhutir dhruvanitir matirmama. Right? That where there is Krishna, then all these things will naturally follow. Morality, opulence, everything good will actually follow. Yato Krishnaha, tato dharmaha. Similarly, yato dharmaha, tato Krishna. Right? In this way, they are trying to meditate that the inseparability of Paramatma and the qualities is what they are trying to meditate upon here. That where such things happen, then definitely victory will be there. So therefore, they are asking Paramatma to, make himself available in that throne, right? So that they can actually petition to Paramatma for whatever they want. This is the beauty of this particular Pasuram today. Thank you all for your patience in listening. With this, we will try to conclude for today. Okay? Jai Sriman Narayan. Andal Emberumanar Jiyar Thiruppavai Sharanam. We'll see if anybody wants to share anything. Sorry, I didn't see there were 2 comments here. Adiyan Napinaji.
Vishnu Narayana Swami.
Jai Shri.
It was very beautiful, fully loaded with so many meanings today. Every second was full of meanings and deep things, Swami. one thing that I have two, or I have two things to share and one question, Swami. The
Yes.
first thing is, it is so amazing that even I mean, obviously in Ammarvar's Pasuram, Sirvaimuri, is the Vedam, like Omkaram or something. I don't know what it depicts for me. I don't know that exactly, but it is equivalent to Vedam. And now when you said that, I could remember one of Swami's Pasarams. Um, uh, um, it says, "Kadal, the land comes first, and then the mountains come, and then the ocean comes." So he has specified that very clearly in his Pasuram. So it immediately took me to that Pasuram. I don't know whether I should tell this here, in the Pasuram today because of Anadhyana Kalam, but there is a Pasuram that Swami has mentioned. It immediately took me there, Swami. Thank you so much for that. The other one was when you said Paramatma is in everything, even the Archavataram, I mean, everything is equivalent. Starting from Antaryami to Archavataram, Perumal is the same Paramatma that exists in every form. So one thing that comes to my mind was Ramanujacharya was walking, and some of the kids, they were making an idol out of mud, and they were offering the same mud to that same idol that they made out of mud, and offered that to Ramanujacharya. And Ramanujacharya prostrated before that idol, and then he took those mud as prasadam. Although, I mean, he did not consume it, but at least, he took it. He was all the way assuming that Paramatma is really there in any form, and if we have that faith, he is in that form. So that example took me to that instance, Swami. Swami, when you said jivas will be floating, like, suspended. I mean, the jivatmas will be suspended. I mean, during pralaya kalam, Swami, without differentiation. I mean, they won't have a shariram, right? So at that time, we identify each and every jivatma even during that time, Swami?
No, we cannot identify. Nobody can identify. Only Paramatma can know which jiva is who, what. He can also know what their karmas are. Like, sometimes funnily, it seems.
Getting Swami, how did? Okay. Okay, Swami. Yeah, please go ahead, Swami. Exactly. That is my follow-up question. Like, how does someone, yeah, know the karma?
No, one will not even be able to distinguish. So sometimes it might feel like it's all dark. So, some of my karmas I can give to some other jiva or something like that. But Paramatma knows exactly. One Acharya was describing like this in a funny way when I heard that, it might seem like one jiva might want to transfer some of the karmas to somebody else. Just like in a dark room, you put some things from our bag to somebody else's bag. So in this way, that possibility also does not exist because Paramatma clearly knows what are the karmas of each jiva. So in the next creation cycle, when he creates all the jivas who are subject to creation, that means we are talking about jivas who have not attained moksham. Clearly, jivas who have attained moksham have departed to
Mhm.
Paramapadam. So those jivas, they cannot be distinguished. But Paramatma knows every individual jiva even at that time, and he knows the details of their karma to every tiniest extent. And he is able to again award the bodies to the jiva in the next creation cycle based on those karmas.
Ariyan, Swami. So, I mean, this is a very silly question to ask,
No,
Swami. So, when you say Paramatma gives the shariram, depending or puts them in the situation according to their karma,
correct.
the birth according to their karma, rebirth according. So, it is not Paramatma himself is doing. He's ordering Brahma to do it, right, Swami? Like he gives those rules to Brahma. He only creates Brahma, and Brahma is the one who, according to the rules. Okay.
Yeah, but creation also, it happens in multiple phases. There are some beautiful verses in Vishnu Puranam. We describe that there are 4 ways in which Paramatma does creation, 4 ways in which Paramatma does maintenance, and 4 ways in which Paramatma does destruction or dissolution, right? We shouldn't say destruction. So, what, in other words, even let's say creation, let's say a child is born to parents, it appears as if the parents are creating the child. But the reality is, it is actually Vishnu, who is the Antaryami of the parents, who is causing the child to form, right? In this way,
Hmm.
when Rakshana is happening, sometimes when, it appears that Arjuna has killed people in the war. Or similarly, it might appear that Rudra is the person who is destroying everything, or fire is the thing that is destroying everything. Right? Sometimes fire, fire takes over and
Mm-hmm.
entire city gets burnt or anything can happen, right? But it is Paramatma who is the Antaryami of Arjuna or Rudra or fire or Kala. These with those, he is the one who is causing the dissolution to happen of those things. In other words, it is Paramatma alone who is doing everything at all times, but there are two ways in which he does. One is Sadvaraka, the other one is Advaraka. Advaraka means directly he does, which is the case of creation of Brahma and the initial raw ingredients for creation. The remaining things is Sadvaraka, through the form of Brahma, through the form of parents of individual species, through the form of different things, Paramatma does the rest of the creation. Similarly, maintenance also, there is Sadvaraka maintenance and Advaraka maintenance. Just like parents are actually protecting the children. This is Sadvaraka. That means Paramatma is the one who, through the parents, is maintaining the children and protecting their children and taking care of their upbringing. But Advaraka protection, he is doing as Vishnu in the Vyuhaloka. Right? Directly, he is trying to protect. He is the one who directly protected Gajendra. That is Advaraka. He is the one who directly protected Draupadi. That is Advaraka. Right? Similarly, dissolution also, he is the one who, Sadvaraka, he does it. Advaraka also, he does it. In this way, everything is done by him, but sometimes it is through others, sometimes it is he himself directly.
Adiyan Swami. Swami, I have this question. You can elaborate if you are aware of this. So for Markandeya Maharishi, Swami, I mean Krishna, so so at one time Krishna swallows the entire world, entire universe, but he will be on a Vatapatra. Right, Swami. So Markandeya Maharishi will ask, how is that possible if the entire world is inside your stomach? How can this leaf alone is um, outside this stomach and you're lying on top of it? Is it something related to what is discussed today or
So this is the Naimittika Pralaya that I am talking about. So the vision that Markandeya Maharshi had was Naimittika Pralaya. It is at the end of a day of Brahma, that is the time at which Pralaya happens. So that is the Pralaya. In Markandeya Maharshi lived for some multiple kalpas. Right? One kalpa is a day of Brahma. So Markandeya Maharshi was someone who lived for multiple kalpas already. So during one of those kalpas, Paramatma gave him a vision of what happens at the time of transition from one kalpa to another kalpa. During that time, he actually absorbs everybody into him. In other words, everybody in the bottom worlds are absorbed into him. People in the Maharloka, Tapoloka, Satyaloka, and so on, they all go into higher lokas and they remain there at that time. But people in all the lower lokas, he swallows all of them. Right? We clearly at this time during Naimittika Pralaya, Brahma, Satyaloka exists, Maharloka exists, Janaloka exists, but Swargaloka also exists, but the heat of Pralaya from the lower worlds will come to Swargaloka. So it is like people in the second floor vacate and go to the third floor. So people in Swarga, they vacate and go to Maharloka. From Maharloka, people vacate and go to Janoloka. In this way, they try to adjust within the top few lokas. The Adhikara Purushas, they remain, right? All the Agni, Vayu, Varuna, these Devatas, and all of them, they remain. But people in the lower worlds, they are all subject to that Pralaya at the end of a day of Brahma. At that time, Narayana exists as Vatapatrashayi and he consumes everything. That is the vision that Markandeya Maharshi desired to see. He did a long penance where he wanted to see Paramatma in that state. So Paramatma decided to give him that vision. So he left Markandeya Maharshi alone outside and consumed everybody else. Everything was inundated. Markandeya Maharshi swam a lot and couldn't find any direction and so on. Finally, everything was inundated with water. He couldn't see any, scope of going anywhere. Finally, Paramatma gave him his darshana. Just by looking at the eyes of Paramatma, he recognized that this is none other than Narayana. This is what he tells Yudhishthira. In the forest, he comes and says that the person who is roaming around with you, calling himself your cousin, the same eyes of the person is what I have seen at the time of Pralaya. So this Narayana is the same person who appeared as Krishna, who is with you, right?
That is very interesting, Swami. Adiyan Swami, thanks so much. Adiyan Swami.
Hey Narayana Swami. Swami, I have a question to Nappinai. Nappinai is the the Thiruvaimozhi Pasuram you mentioned, is it like the Nalu Mela, Nila Neeru Mela Vinnam?
Yes. Yeah.
That's okay. Okay, thank you. So I have like 3 things to share. So, I quickly shared. So the first one is because like when I explained this Marimalai Muranjal Pasuram to Achyutan, I told him the first scene of the movie The Lion King. So, I mean, we have some kids in the Goshti, right?
Yes.
So we see movies. So we saw Lion King 2, and we recently saw Mufasa, which was released like last week. In
Very
all the Lion King movie, the first scene that comes is like the lion will come out of its cave and
even.
it goes to the top of the mountain, and that's exactly like so. And then he's like, "Oh, so is it the same as Mari Malay Munjal?" I'm like, no, no, no. The Lion King is same as Mari Malay Munjal. Not Mari. Andal did not copy from the Lion King director. The Lion King, he took the Mari Malay Munjal first 4 lines, and then he just had that scene in his movie. And then the second one I wanted to share is, I know Sahasnamam says like the Chaturgatihi. So in Sri Rangam, we consider the Moolavar Ranganadhar as Krishnan, and then Nambarmal as Ramar. So that's what like we take them as Rama and Krishna, right? So Namberamal is known for his Nadayalaga. Nadayalaga means his gait, the beauty of his gait. And it's so good that you talked about the Chaturgatihi. So Namberamal, because he is considered as Rama, when they do the procession during Purapadu, they do the Simhagati, Vyagragati, Gajagati, and they also, Rishabhagati, and they also do one more gati, it's Sarpagati. They also go like a snake. Um, so that is like one more gati, but it is, yeah, Sahasramam has Chaturgatihi, but Nambaramal in Srirangam, I don't know if the same, if this gati is also followed in other places, in other Divyadeshams, but in Srirangam, they also do Sarpagatihi. But in all the other Divyadeshams, they do the first 4 gatis that you mentioned in. I knew that you would mention about this Chaturgati and the Simhagati, like the way how. So Rama, he actually that is how he walked. It seems his normal walk. Ra- so Rama's normal walk itself is Simhagati, and so that is why like Nambaramal took his form. And the last one is like this again is the way how Andal has is very smart using her words and her thoughts. The last line she specifically says, இருந்து சிம்மாசனத்திலிருந்து ஆராய்ந்து அருள். So she wants Krishna to sit in his simhasanam. And Arainda means when I ask you something, don't just give it to me. You do your due diligence, you do your research, you do your investigations, and then Arul means, and then you bless me what I'm asking for. So both I mean, you may have noticed or not, when we sing, when the Pasuram, the Thiruppavai is like some of the lines we sing twice. When I was talking to
Nice
Napinai,
pass.
yeah, so even yesterday, like the some of the lines we sang twice because those are the punchlines that Andal wants to establish in those pasurams, right? So today there is a difference when you talk to a person when he is working out in a treadmill, you talk to him. And so the reason why in corporate world we have a meeting, we sit down and talk because the full focus will be on the meeting and what we are discussing. So she wakes up Krishna and the previous pastram. She in Anganmanyalat, he opens his eyes, right? So the next thing is like we just want to do the morning routines, right? Like we want to go brush our teeth, take shower, and all those things. You sit. I don't want to talk to you when you do all those things. You sit in your simhasanam. Only then you will focus on what I'm saying. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, Ara in the Arul means I am a little girl. I may ask you anything which may not be appropriate for my age, for my status, or but that applies not just for Andal, for anyone. See, if I go pray to Krishna that that person should not live happily, he is not going to bless me.
Yeah.
right? I may be the best bhakta that he may have, but he wants to really, like, give me whatever I want. But
We may ask for something that is harmful to us without knowledge.
correct. Yeah. Yeah. So these are the words, like how she's smartly playing. Arainda Arul. You bless me, but before you bless me, you do your due diligence before. So, I mean, I may go on forever, but
Mhm.
these are the things, like, that is like really like outstanding when we think. So that's why, like, before we ask anything to Perumal, I mean, we normally in our sampradayam we don't ask anything. Like,
Right.
some people, we just go to the temple for the sake of going, chant Sahasnama for the sake of chanting. We don't normally,
Ah,
ask anything.
Kamya buddhi. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But still, like, if sometimes, like, we may miss, and even when we ask, we have to always think this line, Arainda Arul. Think before you ask is what, like, the message that she is conveying to all of us. That's one other perspective.
Very beautiful, Hariniji. Thank you for sharing. In fact, at many points we find, people like Parikshit and Arjuna and so on, when they ask questions or petition something to Krishna or so on, they also say, if I am eligible for this knowledge, you please share this knowledge. Or, if you think it is good for me, then please share this. In this way, the asking style. So, what Andal is trying to do is basically what, you know,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. She is teaching us how to even ask.
exactly.
Yeah, this is how you have, don't just go ask him and expect him to say. When you ask, if it's appropriate, bless me. Like, example, I can ask, like, I want to join a class, like something related to Krishna. I want to join the Bhagavad Gita class, right? So even when you ask that, tell him that if it's appropriate, give that opportunity to me. Like, yeah, that's a message that she wants to convey.
I want to share one thing, Swami. I mean, Harini also. Adya last week, I mean, sorry, last week, this Sunday, at our Margari Mahotsavam, she explained that Arain very beautifully. It is very close to what both Harini ji and Raghav Swami said, and she explained it very beautifully in along those same lines. So
Oh,
very beautiful. I mean, that those words still ringing in my ears. It was very beautifully explained by her. She did say the same thing, like, we don't know. Since we are, we are not qualified, um, or we don't have that jnanam or bhakti or anything. We put all the work on Krishna, saying that you analyze what we need actually, and then bless us with what we need. So uh, thanks to Adya also.
Thank you.
very
Swami,
nice.
one other thing, Swami, when it says, I mean, Harini also, so when we do not ask for anything, when we go to Perumal, um, in Mumukshupadi, they say, Kainkariyattai prarthitte peravendum. So you have to beg for Kainkaryam. When you go to Perumal, you have to beg for Kainkaryam, you have to beg for um, the Virodi thing, removal of the Virodi, Kaikariya Virodi. So those prarthana can happen, right? For me.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, so that example, like, when we have to beg, we can ask Perumal, because few things we cannot ask anyone, right? So I this is like Adiyan's thoughts too, but Velukudi Krishnan Swami, he explained it like really well in one of his upanyasams. So yes, we can ask anything to Perumal, relating to Perumal and relating to Kainkaryam. Because when I say, when we have the conversation with Perumal, that dear Perumal, I am going to chant Vishnu Sahasranamam every day for the next 48 days. But so Krishna is expecting, okay, so what is she going to ask me for that, right? So when Krishna is waiting, he's waiting to see if we are asking something relating to him. If we say, I'm going to chant Vishnu Sahasranamam every day for the next 1 year, please get me a Tesla next year. that will hurt him, right? That will hurt him. So, but if I say, Perumal, I make sure to chant Vishnu Sahasranam for the next 1 year. But if I do that, can you please elevate my soul and make me by heart all the shlokams in Bhagavad Gita? That makes him happy, right? Or kaingaryam. So please make me do more kaingaryam to you, or please make me like go to like temple, or please make me. I mean, I don't want to steal the show, but that is what like Andal is asking in Chittanjirikale Pastram. The last one, Matrainam Kamangal Matra. So I want to be your slave. So for that we can ask anything for relating to Krishna, relating to Kainkaryam. I mean, Swami, you please go ahead.
There's one more thing I wanted to add. When it is said that we shouldn't ask Perumal anything, it also depends upon what level we are at. So if someone is very, very realized that they fully understand, like we discussed in yesterday's Pasuram, right, in a very elevated state where they understand it is Perumal who is acting through me at all times, and he is upayam in every sense. It is he who is conducting through me for his pleasure, for activities that pertain to him, and it is his happiness that I am experiencing. When someone is in that level of surrender, clearly there is nothing for them to ask from Perumal, right? And they are constantly realizing that Perumal is the one who is doing everything. If Perumal is just using me as an instrument, then I'm already in Perumal's hands. So Perumal takes care of everything that is necessary for this instrument to be used in whatever services he wants to use in. So when we are in that level of realization, then there is nothing for us to ask. There is nothing we will ask to, right? Even if the worst of things happen to us, Parashara Bhattar Swami, he suffered from, a very difficult situation, but he didn't necessarily ask for that ill health that he had to go away, right? But when we are at a lower phase where we fully do not recognize that Perumal is the one who is doing everything, it is actually advised that even our Purvacharya say that it is not wrong in asking it, because it is only when we ask that, Paramatma sometimes he only gives when we ask. He waits for us to ask. Until then, he doesn't respond. The reason being, he wants us to realize that it is he who is doing it. It's not, our own accomplishment or random chance that is causing things to happen, or somebody around us causing things to happen, or something. So sometimes Perumal, because Jiva has Chaitanyam and is different from Achetana Padartham, Jiva can express that desire that this is what I want from Paramatma. But the asking should be such that the Jiva practices that is for Paramatma's pleasure. In other words, if I am suffering from ill health, right, and it is making it, we are not at the level of Parashara Bhattar Swami or someone where, let's say we get a severe amount of fever or cough or cold or something, right? It's not wrong for asking for Perumal for good health, provided we say that, we actively recognize that, this body I want to use in your kainkaryams on a day-to-day basis. Whatever I am doing, my daily dharmas, they are your kainkaryams. Whatever things I am doing on a day-to-day basis, they are your kainkaryams. May this body become well again by your grace, so that I may be able to do all these kainkaryams in an uninterrupted manner, right, for your pleasure. In this way, depending upon our realization, whatever that desire may be, let's say we want a house, that we may feel that Swami, for I'm just placing a small corner in one, kitchen shelf for you right now. If by your grace a big house comes, then I can devote an entire, room to you where I can, decorate nicely, place for you. In this way, in the initial phases, when our realization is not to that extent where we fully realize that he's the karta, he's the bhokta, and he's, it is for his happiness, everything is happening. We have to actively meditate on how to connect the thing we are asking to Paramatma, right? And at that phase we ask because we don't fully realize, because we think that if that thing happens automatically, Perumal is the one who does it, he's the one who blesses it. But we think it has just happened because I took tablets, it happened because randomly it just got cured, because cold goes away anyway in 7 days. In this way we may think, we don't actively feel Paramatma's presence. So this is one other thing I felt I wanted to add to what you said, Harini.
Thank you so much, Swami. Thank you, Harini. Yeah, Swami.
Yeah, and one more. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing. Kuratalvan story, when he lost his eyes, Swami Ramanuja asked him to write Varadarajastavam, and then he told him, you write Varadarajastavam, and then you ask for his eye. Swami Varadaraja to give your eyes back. Kuratalvan did not agree to it. He wrote Varadarajastavam, but he did not write to get his eyes back. He told because Swami Ramanuja asked him to write the stavam, so that also reminded this story. I remembered the story when you mentioned about the ill health of Parashara Bhatta.
Right. And even there, I think I heard from one account that Kuratalvan said, because it's my Acharya, Ramanujacharya says, these are my eyes, so you please ask from Perumal for a third time. Then he says, yes, because it's my Acharya's eyes, may those be, you please give those eyes only to the extent where I can see Kainkaryams related to my Acharya and you and nothing else. In this way also.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Very, very nice discussion. Very nice discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know. I'm going to miss this session after Margari ends.
It's a great fortune somehow that by the great grace of Acharyas and Perumal and Tayar, somehow this is happening and so many Bhagavatas are able to come together and I'm able to speak something and I never even thought that I could speak on Thiruppavai. Somehow it's magically happening with all of your blessings too. Thank you.
Thank you, Adi.
Adiyan, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Adiyan Hanikadasu.
Adiyan, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Swami. Adiyan taking leave. Permission.